Welcome back. This is the third video of shooting. The first video was basically who can shoot and who they can shoot at. The second video was how to hit your target, such as how many dice you need, what the target number is going to be. This last video is about, okay, I hit my target, now what? So what we got here is I have these tanks here, and they're going to go shoot those stugs down here. So there's some stugs down here, and they're shooting at them, and they get 4 hits. Well, when you hit an enemy platoon, the enemy gets to allocate those hits out. If they shot at you and hit your platoon, like they shot at the Shermans and got 4 hits on the Shermans, you get to allocate those 4 hits onto your Shermans, the target platoon. So this guy goes, you know what? I don't know if this bailed out. You know, I stuck these things up so it's a little easier to read. I don't think he's going to get back in his vehicle. You know what? I don't want to take the chance. So I'm going to put all the hits on that. Can't do that. Even though the opponent got to allocate the hits onto his platoon that you did, there are certain rules we have to follow. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to read and go through the list. Then I'm going to use, I'm going to use this little mock battle here to demonstrate that list. So it may seem a little daunting at first when I'm reading it and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. But when I go to demonstrate allocating hits from this little mock battle here, you'll understand a whole lot more, and it's going to be, oh, this isn't as hard as I thought. It's going to be pretty easy, actually. So let me go through the list first. Let's go through that. Then let's apply that list to a battle. So here we go. First, only teams that are valid targets may be allocated hits. And we talked about valid targets in that first video. Hits must be allocated evenly across all eligible teams, starting with the priority target if there is one. Other teams before teams gone to ground. This next one is more for vehicles. Operational teams, including gone to ground, before bogged down or bailed out. And if there's still a choice of teams, you allocate hits to those closer to 16 inches before those beyond 16 inches, if you have the range on your weapons to do that. Now, you've done this allocating. There's a few little more rules, and that is unarmored before armored, lowest armor first, unprotected teams before teams in bulletproof cover, best firepower goes to those in bulletproof cover. And I'll get to firepower when we get to shooting at tanks. So the best firepower to those in bulletproof cover. However, if you have a priority target, that higher firepower goes to the priority target instead. And the last little rule is bunker busters. So they have their one little special rule as far as allocating hits, and that is bunker busters must be allocated to teams inside the building before teams outside the building. Alright, so we've gone through the list. We're done. We're done with that list as far as just reading it. Now we're going to put that list into practice. So with this little mock battle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first just concentrate on, we're going to shoot this infantry platoon. We're not going to worry about the stugs. I choose one platoon, and I'm going to use my 3 riflemen and my machine gun to shoot at this platoon. So that there's here, 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 here. Now I stuck their signs up too, so the camera can catch it and you kind of see what's going on. And so let's go through. I'm gonna each rifleman gets 1 die. So there's 3 riflemen, 3 dice. Now, I got the machine gun, and it's going to get 6 dice. Now, you're probably wondering, why do it in a different color? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my arsenal. So let's first look up the rifle. So here's the arsenal. So I'm going to tip this down. Riflemen are under infantry. So if we look, we have a rifle team. Shoots 16 inches. Gets 1 shot. Anti-tank 2. And I'll get to anti-tank when we get to vehicles. And it has a 6 firepower. Okay. Well, let's see what the heavy machine gun can do. So that is a gun team. So I'm going to go to the gun teams. And if we go to M1917 heavy machine gun, 24 inches. So the rifles can only shoot 16. This one can shoot out to 24. So that's one of the reasons I did it as a different color. Because if I did it all one color, mixed, if I did all white dice, well, which one were rifle and which one was machine gun? Which one can only go to 16? Which one can go up to 24? So if you do the 2 different colors, there's no question about which is which. And you're going to have to tell your opponent the white or the rifle, the red or the machine gun, so there isn't any arguments. 6 dice, which is why I got 6. None of these guys have moved. Anti-tank 2 and 6 firepower. So here we are. And the first thing we have to do is see if they are valid targets. Well, valid targets, can they see them? And we're going to pretend like everybody here can see everybody here. So we're not going to worry about that. Everybody's in line of sight. They're in their field of fire. These guys 360. This one, remember, only on the front. Forward. So everybody's in their field of fire. Range is the next thing. That's going to be the tricky part. Because these 3 can only shoot out 16 inches. So if I measure 16 inches from the front of the base to the front of the enemy's base, and you know what? 16 inches is basically from here forward. So these are the only valid targets for the riflemen. They cannot hit any of these because these are out of range of their weapons. And we've talked about that with valid targets. Now the machine gun can go 24. So 24 pretty well puts me back here. So this whole platoon is a valid target for the machine gun. So that's where these dice are going to come into play. These can only hit within 16. These can hit within 24. So we got these riflemen. They're veterans. Well, they can see this guy. He's closest. 4s. It's going to take 4s to hit this platoon. Because remember, you hit the easiest target. So I'm going to roll these. See how many 4 pluses I get. Well, you know what? Those poor riflemen's got nothing. So I got the 5 machine gun hits. So the rifleman's totally whiffed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on this platoon being shot at, because we know who's shooting. We know their range. And I need you to be able to see me putting the dice down and what's going on here with this platoon. And it's going to be a little easier if I zoom in on the platoon here and not worry about these guys back here. Because we know what's going on back here. It's what's going on here about allocating hits. And it's going to be easier to see if I zoom into this. Okay, so we're zoomed in. We've got our 5 hits. They got hit 5 times. That means they're pinned. We talked about that. So they're pinned. But we're not going to worry about that right now with this. Alright. Because we talked last video about hitting. Okay, so I hit 5 times. I've got to allocate these 5 hits out. Let's go through our list. Okay? So, only valid targets. Well, these are machine guns, so everybody's a valid target. There's no rifle in there. Hits must be allocated evenly across eligible teams. What that means is, I can't do this, put 1 die there, put 1 die here, and then put 1 back over here. I can't put a second die on this guy until everybody that's a valid target in that platoon has 1 dice on him. Then if that happens, I still got dice left over, then I can start allocating a second die, and I can't allocate a third die until everybody in this platoon has 2 dice on. Well, of the valid target. So that's what that means. So we have to spread these dice out amongst the eligible targets. So I don't have priority targets, so we're going to move on. Oh, I will say something about priority targets. Excuse me. If they're beyond that 16 inches and they're gone to ground, and then part of their platoon is up here, but it's not that priority target, like it's infantry, and we got the gun team back here. Like, let me get a gun team, because this is something they put in the errata. So this gun team, I'm going to put them right on top of that, just pretend, it's gone to ground, and this is part of them. Because they're beyond the 16, they're gone to ground, they will be allocated hits first, because they're within 16. Because remember, gone to ground gets allocated pretty much last. Even though they were priority target, you still kind of have to follow the allocation rules. But if this guy was up here, and this guy, this one will get allocated first. So just kind of let you know how that works. That was an errata. And it's very important to look at the errata. They're very good about keeping up with that, but people have questions on. Okay, so here we go. We got to allocate these out. We know our valid targets. All these, because these were machine gun hits. Wow, machine gun did good. Allocate evenly across, no priority target. So we're going to move on to the next one. Okay, other teams before those gone to ground. So these 3 right here are going to be the last to be allocated. These are going to be allocated before them. Okay, so let's see how we're going to allocate these dice. So next is operational teams. Well, I don't have any tanks in this, so we're going to skip that. If there's still a choice, well, yeah, I've got a choice. 1, 2, 3. These right here, I've got a choice still. Those within 16 inches before those beyond 16 inches. So these 3 are going to be allocated before that one. Now, I'm looking at this. There was a rule in there that those not in bulletproof cover before those in bulletproof cover. Digging in gives you bulletproof cover. Things like sandbags, foxholes. So these will have to be allocated before this one. So I'm going to take one of those and one of those. Well, there we go. Now, I've done what I can within 16 because these guys are going to be pretty much the last. So now, that one's dug in, so it gets one. Now, I've got all these gone to ground left. Well, valid target, yep. So, those within 16 before those beyond, done. We've allocated out. Alright, let's try this again. So I'm going to take these dice, and hopefully the rifles shoot a little better this time. But you know what? They have concealment this time. So now I need 5s to hit this platoon. So I'm going to roll the dice, see how we do. Oh, machine gun did already got 2 hits. The rifles, they just can't seem to hit. Alright, so 2 hits. Alright, let's go through our list. Valid targets. Well, the machine gun is everybody. Spread them out, no priority target. Those other teams before gone to ground, we know these will be last. So we're this. So now we look at 16 or less. That's these 3. Those out of cover before those in bulletproof cover, these 2 get allocated hits. Done. Now I'm going to see if I can actually get these riflemen to hit. They have to be able to hit one time. Come on. So we're going to go back to 4s. So one last time with these rifles, and then we'll go to tank shooting. Oh, they did hit. There we go. So we got 2 machine gun hits and 2 rifle hits. So, valid targets. Well, we know that these, I should put these over here where you can see them. So we know these 2 rifles can only be allocated to these 4 targets. These 2, anybody in platoon. So let's go down our list. Evenly, no priority targets. Other teams for teams gone to ground. Okay, so looking at the rifle, they can only allocate here. Well, that's going to be the last thing that that rifle can allocate to. Well, these guys are open. That one's dug in. So it's going to have to be this. Now, this one can shoot further, but I still have to go through the list. Well, there's nobody left in the open. Within 16 first. Dug in before gone to ground. Done. We're done allocating. Alright, so now, let me stand this back up, because now what we're going to do is we're going to just have these tanks shoot. So let me zoom back out. So what I've got is, I've got 4 Shermans here that are going to shoot that same platoon. And we're going to allocate those hits out. So let me zoom in here. Make sure I've got everybody. Alright, so the Shermans moved. So instead of getting 2 shots per main gun, they get 1. So we're going to take 4, and I'm going to do these in different colors too, because definitely those main guns are going to be different than the machine guns. So we've got 4 main guns. Machine guns on vehicles aren't affected by movement. We talked about that. Shermans have 3 machine guns, but we know we can't shoot the anti-aircraft and the main gun at the same time. So that means only 2 of those machine guns on the tank's going to shoot. So I get 2 dice per tank. So that's going to be 8 dice for those machine guns. Now these machine guns are pretty much just like rifles as far as like distance and everything. So they can only go 16. These can go up to 32. So again, as far as valid targets go, the tanks are a little further back. So let me measure where they're at. Well, you know what? Only these 3 are valid for the machine gun. Every one of these is valid for the main gun. Alright, so we're going to need 4s to hit. Oh no! They're no longer going to ground. Okay, they're back to being on the ground. Okay, they're going to ground again. Alright, so I'm going to need 4s. So let's see what we get here. And that is it. So we got 3 machine gun hits and 2 main gun hits. So we're going to have to allocate these out. Well, we know we have to allocate these out first, because they can only hit these 3. So let's go through our list, and it's going to be pretty easy if they only hit 3. But let's go through our list for practice purposes. Valid targets for those machine guns. Allocate evenly. Those all teams before gone to ground. In the open before gone to ground, or before bulletproof cover. So there, there, there. All right, so this one actually did take a hit this time, because these are the only valid targets for that weapon. So it's going to have to get 1, because there was enough shots. Now, let's say, just for purposes, I hit 1 more time. You start allocating over the same way. So this one now is going to get a 2nd die. If I would hit again, that one, and if I would hit again, this one, and it would continue until all those dice are gone. As far as this weapon, because it can't shoot these guys back here. Now, I've got these 2 dice to go. Well, we know we're going to have to start moving out here, because they all have 1 die on them. Well, we got gone to ground, dug in the open. In the open first, dug in. Now, I want to just, for purposes of explanation of something, if this was a machine gun in this, and let's say this is the situation, I'd have to put the higher firepower if I allocate out. Hope I'm not confusing you. If I'm allocating out to guys dug in and not dug in, let's just say, the higher firepower would have to go in the ones dug in. If after priority target, after all the targeting's done. That may seem a little confusing, but the best firepower has to go on those dug in. So, in this case, this would be a good example. Here, let's say I hit 3 times. Okay? And this is what I've got. So I know I'm going to be allocating out to these three guys. So, you know what? I'm going to take this one that's got a really good firepower, put it here, there. I can't do that. Because these guys are in bulletproof cover, this has a better firepower. It has to go on them. Following the normal allocation rules. So if I only had one shot, well, even though it has to go on that, because this gets allocated before that one. If I get two shots, I can't put the weaker firepower on the guys in bulletproof cover. I have to put the stronger firepower on the ones in bulletproof cover. Just kind of let you know that situation. All right, so let's shoot these tanks again. We're going to get these guys covered just like last time. Now we need 5s. And machine gun, and 1. Oh my gosh, this is coming up just what I explained. Okay, so let's go through it. Valid targets. Well, we know these can only hit these rifles, or machine guns. I mean, pretty much the same as rifle. These machine guns can only hit these 3. This one can hit anybody. So, let's allocate out. Those not in. Those in. This one, I have to allocate there last. This one can't go past there, so I have to go there. I couldn't allocate really that one to that because these two had to be allocated them, and I can't put a second die on until I allocate out to the others, and everybody has one. So this is the case where I was talking about you follow normal rules, but if I hit 3 times on this one and somehow this is a gun that can only shoot 16 inches but has really good firepower, I'd have to do that. So let's do this one more time. Let's take this off. Take all my shots. I need 4s to hit. Oh my. Oh my. I really did really good with the machine guns. Not so good with the main gun. Alright, so let's allocate these out. So this one I'm just going to hold off on because I know it's going to be allocated out here. These can only be allocated here because of the distance. So, going through our list, valid targets. It's these 3. Evenly. So I have to allocate 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So where do we start? Well, those in open, those in bulletproof cover, gone to ground. Open, bulletproof cover. Now I got this one. I can't allocate here because these guys don't have any dice on them, and they're valid targets for that. Well, open before those dug in. That gets that shot. Done allocating. So that's how we're going to allocate to the infantry. So now, let's move to the tanks. And it's close to being the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out. And again, those same Shermans are going to shoot. And we're going to see. Okay. I measured. And what I'm going to try to do is make sure we get as much of those studs as we can in here for this demonstration purposes. Okay, so I got these 2 studs here. I got one that's belled out, one that's bogged down, another one here, and that one way back there. 16 inches in is these 2. We got these Shermans that are going to shoot. They're not going to use their machine guns. They can't penetrate their armor. And I'll get to that in just a little bit about the anti-tank and the firepower and all that. But right now, we're just learning how to allocate the hits. That's all we're doing right now, allocating the hits. So we already did that with the infantry. Let's do it with the vehicles. They've got a little different rules. So again, everybody can see everybody. So everybody from the Sherman can see them. They can see the Shermans. So it's not, we're just trying to keep it simple for allocating hits. The Shermans didn't move this time. So they get 2 dice each. So that means I'm going to get 8 shots on these stugs. So 2, 4, 6, 8. All right. So I'm trying to make sure when I put the dice down where I need to put them down so you can see. So I see where I need to put them. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to need 4s to hit because everybody's within 16. It's not going to add to their rating. So 4s to hit. And I got 3 hits. So we have to allocate those 3 hits to this platoon. So here we go. What do? Valid targets. Well, the max range is 32 inches. So that means everybody up to this guy here. This one's not a valid target, so he's in the clear. Everybody here forward is a valid target, 32 inches. They're in line of sight and they're in their field of fire. So we checked all that, we got the range. And we know that these are within 16, these are beyond 16 up to this one. Hits must be allocated evenly across, so again, we can't put 2 dice down, 2, and just put them all on one vehicle. We don't have any priority targets. Other teams, for teams gone to ground. I do not have any of these gone to ground. Remember, vehicles can go to ground. If they didn't move, didn't shoot, didn't assault, they've gone to ground. So I don't have any of these gone to ground. It could happen though. Operational teams, including on the ground, before bogged down or bailed out. Oh, these 2 are going to be allocated last. Because they just told me, no matter the range, you allocate to working vehicles, except for, I shouldn't say range. This guy's not, period, he's not going to be hit. So these 3 are going to be allocated hits before them. Even though this one's beyond 16 and this one may be within 16, even if it was right there, right in front of the Shermans, which you can't see. Let's move it right there. Even though it's right there, operational before bailed out or bogged down. And again, that's why you go through the list. It's telling you. All right? So, now, those closer than 16. Now, there is a little stipulation. Remember, I was going like unarmored first, lowest armor. So now I'm looking at these vehicles. Does one of these have lower armor? Well, I'm shooting the side here. Let's just pretend everybody's shooting the side. This side's going to have a lower armor than they will. So this is going to get the first hit. This is going to get the second. Now we move out here. And you know what? I'm going to move this one up just for demonstration purposes. I want to move that up because I want to explain. Now, we've done those within 16. Now we go beyond 16. I've got side armor, front armor. Well, this is lower armor, so that's the one that's going to be hit. Done allocating. Well, let's try it again. 8 shots, needing 4s. Maybe I'll get more. Maybe I'll get more hits. Not so great. I'm going to cheat a little bit. Let's say I got 6 hits. Doesn't always work when you're trying to do just rolling. I was hoping to roll, but let's say we got 6 hits. Let's allocate these 6 hits out. And again, you can see how this list isn't that difficult if you just think about it in one step at a time. So, valid targets, all of them. We know these are within 16. Bailed out, bogged down, last. So here we go. Allocate across, no priority target. Moving on. Other teams foregone to ground. Nope. Alright, so operational teams foregone before bailed out, bogged down. So now those within 16. Lower armor first, higher armor. Beyond 16. Low armor, higher armor. You know what? I have 2 dice left. So guess where those are going to go? My choice. They're both beyond 16. So if this one was here, it would have to be allocated before that one that's beyond 16. Now, let's say I hit 2 more times, just for practice purposes, demonstration purposes. Well, we start over. Valid targets, priority, within 16, low armor, higher armor. Done. So that is how you allocate your shots. Or the opponent's going to allocate your hits. Or you're going to have to allocate the hits on your team. All right? Now, one of the things I do want to bring up is, I'm going to zoom back out to my Shermans here. And I'm going to replace 2 of these Shermans with 2 Easy 8s. They got a bigger gun. They're going to do a lot more damage. They got an anti-tank of 13. So these have an anti-tank of 10. These have an anti-tank of 13. So they have a much better anti-tank. They're going to be able to take out enemy vehicles easier than these guys will. So let's say they're shooting. So I get 2 shots. And I'm going to have to do these in different colors, because they do have that different anti-tank rating. So they're going to get 2 shots, and I have 2 regular Shermans. That's going to be the white dice. And we're going to roll these to see what we do. What do we do when we have these different firepower, or different anti-tank ratings? Alright, so I needed 4s. Well, that's actually a pretty good little roll here. So it looks like I've got 3 regular Sherman hits and 2 Easy 8 hits, which are the anti-tank 13. So anti-tank 10, anti-tank 13. So I'm going to read first about these little special rules, and then we're going to kind of allocate these out following those rules. So we had that unarmored before armored. So if there's an unarmored vehicle, it would get allocated hits before these armored vehicles would. Then the lowest armor before a higher armor, which we were doing here, because the side's lower than the front. And you still, that's why I'm going to go out here where you can see. And also it still follows the previous rules. Those within 16 before, if there's, target, so that's why this one got allocated before that one. If hits are allocated to both armored vehicles and other teams, maybe unarmored, maybe there's a warrior joined an infantry team that's in a tank, so the warrior's in the tank and there's an infantry team around him. So if hits are allocated to both armored vehicles and other teams, hits allocated to armored vehicle must be hits with the highest anti-tank rating, even if they have a lower firepower rating. So highest anti-tank goes on the highest armor. You still follow the hits. It's just if you can put one on a lower armor or higher armor, you have to put it on the higher. And if tanks with different anti-tank ratings are being allocated to armored vehicles, the hits with the lower anti-tank rating must be allocated to those with the lowest armor. And still, it follows these within 16 before those beyond and things like that. So it still follows those first. Then if you have the option or choice of which one of these within 16 do I allocate it to, that's where you follow these rules. If you can hit the front or side, treat it as the lowest rating. So you might be halfway on the front, halfway on the side like the infantry was. They're on the side. Could be side or turret front armor, and I'll get to that in just a minute. And then don't forget your gun tank rule. You want to take out, like say there was a king tiger or something, like, there's a tiger out here or something. You go, I really want to take this tiger out, and this is a warrior that's joined them. You can gun tank, say this is my target, and every hit you hit, every hit from that one team or several teams, whatever teams you choose, to hit that, pick those dice up, that hit, every 5 and 6 has to be allocated to that. So don't forget that you can do that gun tank rule. All right, so how are we going to allocate these out? We got 2 anti-tank 13s, 2 anti-tank 10s. Well, we still have to follow the normal procedures. And all these can still shoot out to here. So let me, again, bring up these a little closer. Do I have everybody? I think I have. There we go. I think I got everybody in here. Okay, because we're not worried about looking at the team shooting. We're worried about looking at here. All right, let's go through our valid targets. Everybody. We already discussed that. Distribute across. I do not have a priority target. So those operational before bogged down, bailed out. So I still have, oops, this one should be bailed out. It fell down. So that one, so this one, this one, this one, and this one before those. And this one before that one because of range. Alright, so lowest armor. Well, it said if it's lower or higher, the lower firepower goes. Or anti-tank. This is anti-tank 10, 13. Lower armor, lower anti-tank. This has got a higher anti-tank, so I get to put that one there. He's going out. Well, between these two, saying, they're beyond 16. Lower armor first, lower rating. Higher, higher rating. I have one shot left over, so it's going to have to go to one of these. This one's within 16 first. There we go. Allocate it out. Let's do that one more time. Make sure I have the right number of dice here. So there's that. 1, 2. Okay, here we go. Trying to get 4s. Ooh, that actually was a... I think I got one more hit than last time. Yep. Okay. So our lower, higher, and anti-tank. So going through it, valid targets we know. No priority targets. Nobody's gone to ground. Operational before bogged down and bailed out. So now we're left with this. So here we go. Within 16 first, lower armor first, lower anti-tank, higher armor, higher anti-tank. Now we're moving beyond. Lower armor, lower anti-tank, higher armor, higher anti-tank. I hit the same amount again. Okay, between these two. Well, this one's closer. It's within 16. If this was back here, beyond the 16, it would be, I could choose which one. Now let's pretend I hit one more time. Then that one would get one. Then if I hit again, like here's 2 more hits. Let's say I hit with everything. I hit with everything. Just for demonstration purposes. I have to start all over again. So I know everything was fine. I had to go within 16. 16, lower armor, within 16. If I had more hits, it would start going back here and so forth and keep going around. So now we've allocated hits with our tanks. On to other tanks.